Okay, I will present snake's active contour model. This was first published by CAS. This is my agenda. First, I will give a demonstration. I will show one snake in action, and then I will explain what is snake. Then mathematical descriptions of how it minimizes its energy to come to a local or global minima. Then I will discuss some of the drawbacks and some of the variations of snake, and then applications of snake. At the end, I'll show the references. Okay, so to give a demonstration, this is an image we have, and we want to segment the face of this image. And the user has some prior knowledge of where in the image the face might be located to. So based on that knowledge, the user has to draw a contour. In this case, the contour is drawn as a circle. So user has drawn a red contour around the expected place where the target is, and then the snake will run. And this blue line that we can see, that is the final position of the snake. The snake has actually started from this initialization in red color, and it has worked on minimizing its energy, and finally around it has just locked around the surface of the target region. Uh, that's why it is like having minimal energy. So it's there, like snakes are active contour models. They lock onto nearby edges, localizing them accurately. This code of this thing, this is there in the Python scikit image page. I have taken the code from there, but I have also added my own code to show an animation how the snake is moving from this red portion, the red initialization, and then it is actually localizing to the border of the target. I'll just run it. Not running, I will run it from here. It's it has started from here, it has localized some portion, and now it is localizing the others. Finally, it has stopped here. Why it is called snake? Because of this movement is just like snake. Snakes generally, if it wants to surround an object, it will first place itself near that object, and then it will slither. Just like snakes, it has slithered and localized that face. Introduction. Why it is contour model? Because the problem domain is that to find salient image contours, and that can be edges, lines, or even subjective contours. And also it will track those contours during the motion and match them in stereopsis. And why it is called active? That's because it's always minimizing its energy function, and therefore exhibits dynamic behavior. And why it's called snake, I already explained, because the way the contours slither while minimizing their energy, we call them snakes. So snakes do not try to solve the entire problem of finding salient image contours. They rather rely on other mechanisms, on users, to place them somewhere near the desired contour. These are the mathematical description. this total energy of one snake. Another thing is that in the example I have shown only a round initialization, but it's not necessary that it has to be a closed contour. It can be an open contour, like a curved line also, and then that line will be moving. It can also, it's not like it has to be a two-dimensional, it can be a three-dimensional. If we want to track a three-dimensional object, we can initialize a three-dimensional spline and then follow the same procedure for tracking it. So this snake energy, this is here Vs is the parametrical position of the snake. S is the curve. This is the position along the curve, like the arc length of the snake. And the total energy of the snake is the integration of each point, integration of the energy at each point of the snake along the curve. And here it is 0 to 1 means we have assumed, say, the snake is and tail of the snake is 1. So that from beginning to end, it is integrating all energy. This, okay, and it has this energy has three portions. The first term is its internal energy, the internal energy of the snake or the spline. This energy increases if the snake is bending too much. This energy is minimum when the snake is either maybe reduced to a point, or maybe it's like a straight spline, straight line, or just a plane. Then energy is minimum. The more it bends, the energy increases. Second term is the energy of the image forces. I'll explain all these one by one. And the third term is the energy from external constant forces. This is like a user can either attract or repel a snake using external forces. Now in detail, internal energy. It has two portions. First portion is the first term is Vs, that is the first order term that makes the snake act like a membrane. See this V, as we know, this is the parametric position of the snake, and its first order derivative with respect to the arc length. This is like you can say, can you hear me properly? Actually, lots of sound around.
Yes, there is some noise from background.
Okay. So here VSS, yeah. Say there is one point in a snake. The first point is say VS1, and the neighborhood VS2, and if the snake is like x1, s1 and s2 are far, distance is too much between them, then as the distance increases, this VSS, this terms amount will become more, and that will make the energy, the internal energy, increase. So that's why this term takes care of continuity of the snake. It acts like a membrane. It's like elasticity of the snake. And this double integral, this sorry, not double integral, this is second order derivative of Vs, that is like how two adjacent points in the rate of change of the two adjacent points in the snake. So if they are moving in two different directions, then this term will be more. So this term adds to the the stiffness of the snake. It makes the snake act like a thin plate. Now this alpha and beta, these are the weight parameters. They decide which of the they control the stiffness and elasticity of the snake, how you want the snake to behave. This alpha and beta are also positional parameters of the snake. So in different positions of in different points of the snake, they can vary. So by setting beta s to 0 at a point allows the snake to become second order discontinuous and develop a corner. So like if beta s is 0, it can be like the snake is still continuous, but it can develop a corner. It doesn't have to be like straight. Okay. To describe the external constraint, we have developed a user interface for snakes. It's called SnakePit. Here the user can play with the snake. Like in this picture, you can see there are two snakes in black color. This is one snake and this is another snake. And this white color, these straight things, these are called springs. Springs has two ends, it's like normal springs. There, one end can be attached to some position in the snake, and another end can be either attached to another snake, or it can be attached to a point in the image, or even user can drag those around, drag those using a mouse, and then that's how user can control the snake by dragging this also. These springs are attractive forces. Like if two ends of the springs are at positions x1 and x2, then it will add a force k into x1 minus x2 square force. If x1 and x2 are same position, like the spring just swings to a single point, then this energy is minimum. And if x1 minus x2 is 1, then their energy is k. So it's like the shorter the spring becomes, the snake when the snake comes nearer to the other end of the spring, it minimizes energy. And the energy becomes more. There is another type of user interface provided, that is like a volcano. It exerts repulsive force 1 by r square. R is the distance from volcano to the spring. So if to the snake. So if the snake is nearby the volcano, the R is less, so the repulsive force is more. These volcanoes are very useful for pushing a snake out of one local minima into another. Sometimes while minimizing the energy, the snakes get stuck in one local minima that is not global. So we can put a volcano to move it out of that minima and continue minimizing this energy. Next, image forces. This is the formula for image forces. It has three constituents. The first one is line, energy due to a line. This is simply the intensity of that point. So depending on the sign of W line, so these are the coefficients, W line, W age, and W terms. So they adjust wide range snake behavior can be created. Depending on the sign of W line, the snake will be attracted to either light lines, white color lines, or dark lines, black lines, because of the intensity. W edge, this is the negative of the square of the gradient of a position in the image. The snake is attracted to contours with large image gradients. Like when there is an edge, the image gradient, when there is a very strong edge, the image gradient will be quite high. And at that point, gradient can be positive or negative in both the cases, because it is squaring, the gradient amount will be very high, and because it is negated, the energy will be very low. So when the snake minimizes its energy, it will be able to find that strong edge. Next one is termination function I. This function to attract snakes towards corners and terminations based on curvature. Like the image, if it has a corner, or if the image is ending at one point, so those things, the snake is attracted to them. It has this formula. The G sigma is the Gaussian with sigma as a variance, and G into image, Gaussian into image means it's just smoothing the image. If we call it as CXY, then the gradient direction is theta is equal to tan inverse CY by CX. CY, CX are the gradient of the image with respect to Y direction and X direction. Tangent n is a vector. We can define a vector tangent n as cos theta and sin theta, and perpendicular to that normal vector minus sin theta cos theta. And using this E term, energy terms, we can minimize the energy. And to view the code using which in the beginning of this presentation I showed the image. I want to show you that code. This is a Python code. Here in the beginning, it is loading the image data astronaut. This program is for this image. So first it is loading this image, and then it is showing that image here, and then this portion of the code, it is drawing that red line around the face. It's actually just dividing 2 pi 0 to 2 pi to 400 equally spaced points. And then it in the R, that is the row, and C is the column. It is drawing a circle. Actually, it is drawing 400 points around a circle whose center is at row 100 and column 220. And because it is calculating sine of those 0 to 2 pi range, it is like the position of the points RC are forming a circle. Sine and cos, they are forming a circle. So this variable init is having 400 points around the face that are forming a circle. That we'll draw later in red color. And then this is the function, this is implemented in Python active contour. This is the function for this snake behavior. Its inputs are, one is first input is the Gaussian of the actual image. So before applying snake, we are smoothing the image little bit. That's because just to clear out the noise, so that the snake can easily identify the strong edges. So first, this noise is getting cleared and blurred image is coming as input to the snake. And then init, this is the function initial position of the snake that we have defined here. That is the round. And then there are these parameters, alpha, beta, gamma. These are matching with, if you see, here, this alpha, beta, these are the parameters we are passing, alpha, beta. And gamma is gradient descent parameter that I can show here. Actually, due to screen sharing, I am not able to see the top portion of this windows. That's why I am trying to minimizing them. Okay. Okay, this is the function description. It's there in the documentation of scikit image. It has this alpha, beta, or even this W line, W age. This parameter, W line, W age, W term, this we can give in the input parameter. And then it has gamma is probably the learning, like it's a gradient descent parameter. And then maximum pixel movement for each iteration, number of iterations you want. These iterations, these are all gradient descent related, like how the snake minimizes its energy. It just runs gradient descent and minimizes energy in each iteration. So if we give a small number of iterations, then the snake will not be able to totally identify the image. Like even before going to the edge, the gradient descent step will stop and it will not be able to identify. So after applying this snake, it is plotting. Just these are the plots. As you see, init is plotting in red color and the snake is plotted in blue color. You can see it here. The snake is plotted in blue color and these are plotted on top of the original image, not the blurred image. So that's how this has been achieved. I can show you another function here. We have just drawn a white color circle on black background and we have run the snake for different iterations. See, first one, the snake variable, that is for all iterations as long until it snaps to the border of the image. And snake 25, that is run for only 25 iterations. And snake 50 is run for 50 iterations. And then we have plotted it. As you see here, init is plotted in red and the total snake without any, I mean, for all iteration is plotted in blue color, B for blue. Snake 50 is in green color, G for green, and snake 25 is in yellow color. See here, initial is in red. And yellow snake 25 probably. And then this green, that is run for iteration 50. And ultimately the final snake is in blue color. So you see, first the snake has identified this edge and then it is slowly slithering and surrounding this edge. Okay. Now, some of the characteristics of snake. This is one concept, scale space. If part of the snake finds a low energy image feature, the spline term will pull neighboring parts of the snake towards the continuation of the feature, like we showed in the previous picture also. This effectively places a large energy well around the good local minimum. So here in this picture, you can see some peers or some objects are kept. And in black color, we see a snake around these objects. This snake has found this object mostly. Only a small portion we are drawing, we are pulling using a spring. I'll show you an animation, like we will release the force of this spring, and then though it is quite far away from this image, it will snap here, it will come here, and the snake will totally lock around this object. Like, since it is far away, it's probably not getting the gradient of the image at this point, but still, because other portions of the snake has found this image edge, so it will actually come and continue in this line. I'll just run it, see. We have released it, and now it is totally in line with this edge. So another concept is that this is actually energy. This is an alternative edge functional from what we have seen earlier. This E line, energy of the line can be Gaussian of Laplacian of the image and its square. We have similar concept in like in image processing one. Probably we have learned Marr and Hildreth edge detection technique, in which the main concept of it is that we can first smooth an image with G sigma. Sigma is the variance, and then that smooth image we can run Laplacian on that smooth image, like delta square and delta square of G of Gaussian convoluting with I image. And then on that Laplacian of the smooth image, the zero crossing are actually the edges. So the Marr-Hildreth edge detection formula, they're first doing a Laplacian of the Gaussian and then convoluting that with the image. So these are the Laplacian of Gaussians. They are the zero crossing. We are those are the points where the edges will be there. Using similar logic, this is a concept how edges are detected using snake. In this image, this portion, this left top image square, this is the blurred image and highly blurred image. And this blurring is reduced from this image to this image. Blurring is reduced. Then again, blurring reduced in this image. And this is the actual image. The idea is that we first apply snake on a highly blurred image, and then we reduce the blurriness gradually, so the snake keeps on tracking the object more and more accurately. In a very coarse scale, the snake is attracted to this local minima from very far away, because if we are blurring an image heavily, that means if there is a very high, very strong edge, then its effect will flow far beyond from the edge position, because of heavily like this. If this variance is quite high for that Gaussian, then that effect will flow quite far from the actual edge. So the snake, even if it is far from that actual edge, it will be able to catch that gradient and it will come near the actual edge. But image extreme blurred, it will not be able to find the actual position. It will just come near the edge. And once the snake is near, approximately got the edge, then we keep on reducing the blurring. So the snake will slowly find the actual edge and it will place itself accurately. So this is the concept of scale space. And in this final image, actually, the zero crossings are kept like on top of the image. Zero crossings are also given here in this image. So as you see, the snake jumps from one piece of a zero crossing contour to another. So this is the snake. It is not a continuous edge that the snake is surrounding. It's actually multiple zero crossing. They are apart from each other, but still the snake is forming a continuous edge. At this scale, the shape of the zero crossing are dominated by the small scale texture rather than the region boundary. But the snake nevertheless is able to use the zero crossings for localization because of its smoothness constraint. Another concept that snake is characteristics of snake, that this is a image in which these straight lines are drawn like this. Now, because of psychophysics, human can see a round inside this image, round figure. That figure is not existing. There is no round edge. But we can see, if we look at this picture, we will be able to see a white color round in between this. So, snake model bears on the psychophysics of subjective contour. And this is called hysteresis. I will explain. If snake is kept around this subjective contour, and then if this contour is moving, then snake will be able to track that. Here I will show and I will run an animation. You keep your eye on this part. Here what will happen is that this line will be drawn towards right. And initially, when we are drawing this line towards right, this snake will follow the line, like it will turn like this as we are drawing it in the right position. But after some point, when it is like starting from here or some position, the snake will not be able to follow it anymore. It will snap back in its original position. I'm running it, you just watch, keep an eye on this position. Snake has first it extended like this, then it dropped. This is called hysteresis. It's like it is keeping history. From there, this term is coming, hysteresis. This is happening because initially when the snake was in equilibrium and this line was here, after that, when we are moving the line, if the snake is stuck with that portion of the image, there is no additional image forces applied on the snake. So it will want to get stuck with the image. But because the snake is not in equilibrium, some bending is happening here, its internal forces will increase. So the snake will still get stuck as long as, even if the internal force is increasing a bit, it will get stuck. But what if, like, if it is stretched for a longer period, then at some point say the snake has two options. If it is sticking with that object, then internal energy is increasing. But if it is leaving and going to its original position, then image forces will increase because of this line. So at one point of time, that image force and internal energy are equal, and after that, image force is uh, lesser than the internal energy. So at that point of time, it will give precedence to the internal energy, and it will snap back and it will leave that image. That is called this. This is hysteresis. Now, okay. Now I will discuss some of the variations. Okay. The first variation is the balloon model. There are some drawbacks traditional snake has. First thing is, if a curve is not close enough to an edge, it is not attracted by it. And if the curve is not subject to any force, shrinks on itself. If this is the edge that the snake wants to track, and we draw a snake like this, then as we saw, it will lock around it. But that contour has to be outside the edge that we want to track. If we draw a snake like this, initial snake, then it will just reduce, it won't find any external force, and it will just um, converge to a single point. It will not be able to find this. This is what it's saying here. And often, due to noise, some isolated points are gradient maxima and can stop the curve when it passes by. This is like if the edge that we are going to track is a little broken, say like this, and the snake, and there are points, maximum points here, like this, and the snake we are drawing is it can be like this, it can get stuck or something, it can happen that way. Like rather than finding a continuation, it can get stuck in some other maxima points. Its solution is a balloon model. It's basically adds another volcano force, that's a pressure pushing it outside, or can be other volcano also. So which makes the contour to have more dynamic behavior. This is the force it exerts, F inflation equal to K1 NS. Here, NS is the normal energy, that's like the normal direction, it's energy, unit vector. And K1 is the magnitude of the force. It has an implementation in Python in scikit image segmentation, morphological geodesic active contour. It has a balloon parameter, balloon equal to 0. You can show Here it has a balloon parameter. Balloon equal to 0 means there is no ballooning force. A negative value will shrink the contour and a positive value will expand the contour. So if we give a negative value, then this type of contour will work. If I give a positive value, then this type of contour will work. So this is a demonstration. This triangle we want to track. We have given an initial contour like this in red, and then in fifth iteration we can see it is growing, expanding, and then at last in in blue color it has tracked that snake, that object. Drawbacks: the balloon has to be initialized either to shrink or grow. It cannot decide in itself that whether to shrink or grow. And this K1 amount of force, that is difficult to set because it must be large enough to overcome weak edges. There is some noise, we have to overcome those noises also. And but it has to be not to overwhelm legitimate edge forces. So how to set K1, that is a difficulty in this model. Next model, I will discuss gradient vector flow. This is again solving some of the drawbacks of traditional snake. First is poor convergence to concave boundaries. If we have an edge like this and we have initialized the snake like this outer portion, it will follow the edges, but it won't be able to follow this very sharp concave edge. Reason is that if you see in this picture, these are the direction of gradient for each of the, for every portion of the edge. So when the snake is here, it is faced with two horizontal gradients, but there is no vertical gradient that will pull it here. So that's why it is stopping here and it is not able to follow this concave region. For this, this is the idea, gradient vector flow snake. This is called GVF snake. Here, the gradient vector flow field is defined as a vector field Vxy. It has two components, U and V. Energy term is like this. The first term is multiplied with a constant mu, and these are actually the first order derivatives of U and V in X and Y directions. And the second term is this delta F is the image forces, image gradient force, and this is delta F square V minus delta square dx dy. So when delta F is small, at that point the energy is dominated by partial derivative of the vector field, means the first term, and that will be the smooth field. And when delta F is large, the second term dominates, and it is minimized when V is equal to delta F. That is, the vector flow becomes equal to the image gradient, image force. So in homogeneous regions where there is no image gradient, there the first term results in a type of filling in of information taken from the boundaries of the region. The details of this can be found in this paper. It's published in 1999. You can actually view this paper. It is explained in detail how the gradient flow are decided and the mathematics behind them. So using this gradient flow, if we see the vector flows, it in this concave position, it is no more totally horizontal. Really, all these are flowing. It is flowing from here to this direction, and here also in this direction, and this direction. So that's how. There is another problem was that the sensitivity to initialization. Here, if we initialize the snake like this, it will get pulled, and in this position also it will get pulled downwards, and it is properly tracking it. These are the mu and alpha beta taken, and these are the vector flow shown. Even if we initialize the snake in a way that the snake is expanding and like it is some portion of it is outside the image and some portion is inside the image, still it is able to track it, like you see here. Also, it's not necessary to have a prior knowledge whether the snake should swing or not. So if we initialize it like this, then it will expand. If we initialize like this, it is shrinking. The drawback of this model is that this round corner here, it is having round corners because of mu. If we reduce the mu, the roundness will be reduced, but if we are reducing mu, then that this term that attracts the snake from far beyond, that is getting reduced. The snake will not get attracted from far. There is also another variation that is better than these two variations that I will not discuss. It's a geodesic snake. This till now, whatever we have discussed, those are parametric definition of snake, but that is geometric definition. There is a paper, you can refer to it if you are interested. Geodesic active contour. There are other papers also regarding this. Basically, they look at the gradient of the images and they form level sets contour from the geometric geometry of the images. So like it can have, if there is a one snake, but the level sets are multiple, then the snake can break into multiple snakes and track different objects. And also if there are multiple, but ultimately the level sets are merging, then those snakes can merge also. As far as I have read, this is the best variation till now because it's fast and it does accurate tracking. Okay, now I'll come to applications. First is age detection. I have already shown how it detects ages, and then shape modeling. In case we want to analyze the shape of a model, then as it snaps around the object, we can do snap modeling. Segmentation also we have shown. These are very useful for medical purpose. And then stereo matching. If we have attended computer vision, so we know what is disparity. Like if we are viewing the same 3D object from two different perspective views, for example, from our left eye and from our right eye, then the difference of the same object in the two images we are getting from two views, that distance is called disparity. Like if we are moving in a train, we see the nearest objects that are like trees that are nearest to us, those are moving very fast. But if we look at the direction of the horizon is not moving at all. So that way, if we are looking at an object from two eyes, and the objects that are nearby our eyes, their disparity will be very high. but objects far beyond at infinity, there will be very less disparity. So this assumption, disparities do not change too rapidly with space. Like we are not moving in a train, we are just standing and looking at it with using two eyes. In that case, disparities do not change too rapidly with space unless the contour rapidly recedes in depth. This constraint can be expressed in an additional energy function for stereo snake. Here, the rate of movement of the point we are looking at with the left eye minus rate of movement of the right eye image, that is that square, that is the energy. So there shouldn't be much difference between them. If the difference is more, that means this energy is increasing. So this energy has to be decreased to do stereo matching. Similarly, for motion tracking, snake is used. Like here in this picture, you see a red color snake around the lip of this person, and as the person is speaking, the snake is still tracking that lip. Also, there is a very interesting video I can show you. I will just end it after that. Where shown. This is the object. Here we are able to see that object and it is tracking itself. And whenever there is any occlusion, this object is not visible. But after it crosses that occlusion, it's again tracking that subject. So this is developed using OpenCV. These are the reference I have referred. First one is snake active control model. This is the first initial paper. Second paper, everything you've always wanted to know about snakes. This is very helpful. It actually explains many functionalities of the first paper. Then I have referred to scikit image documentation, balloon model, then gradient vector flow, and geodesic active contours. And then this tracking I showed in the last, that is based on Kalman snakes, that this paper is also there. So this is it. Please ask me questions. Hello.
Debanjan, Soumi, Tanmoy, Animesh, do you have any question? Am I audible? No. Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you're audible. No questions.
Okay. Deomita?
Hello, Luna. What I want to know is that, can you please show me what are the value of W's you have taken for that astronaut image segmentation?
Okay. You mean W age and those things?
Yes, the 3W values you have mentioned in your PPT.
Here I have not given the 3W values, but it has taken the
Default value.
Default values that we can see here. Those are 1 or 0.
Yes.
Yeah, and those are 1. W line is 0, W edge is 1.
So you haven't considered line and the third part also.
No, actually that part, as I was saying, that code is provided by the this documentation only. I just ran it. I created the animation, but the code is there. The code I have taken from there.
Okay. No, because what you have mentioned in your PPT that you are minimizing your energy, right? So
Yes,
if you want to attract your snake towards dark intensity pixels, then your W line should have a negative value.
yes. But along with that is for line, but then we are using the edge.
No, that's what I'm saying. You are not considering the two W factors. You are considering only the H factor.
Yes.
Okay. And the energy of the snake, it had 3 parts. One is your image forces, one is your internal, and there was another part, econ.
Yes, correct. That
External
is,
has 2 parts.
yes.
One is your image forces,
Hmm.
and
Internal forces, image forces, and external constant.
yes, external constraint. How
Yes.
do you define that?
That is actually in this, see, these are the external constant. That is the sum of k x1 minus x2 square and then 1 by r square. But those are not defined in that implementation of Python, because there is no user instruction there except initializing the snake. Those are not used in that code. This portion is not implemented there.
Okay. Thank you.
Luna, if I have multiple objects,
Okay.
how do I proceed with snake model?
In this model,
So is the basic assumption in this model is the image contain a single object?
in this model, there can be more than one snakes. And we can track multiple objects with them. But I think, I'm not sure, but I think currently most of the implementations are using a geodesic snake model, where they are tracking it based on the level sets of contour level sets of the gradient flow. So it can actually break as per the gradient flow. Like same snake can break to multiple snakes. So I
Okay.
don't have that much clarity as to exactly how it does.
Okay. So second question is, you can draw multiple lines, right?
Yes, multiple.
For example, this picture represents 2 lines.
Yes.
So suppose I have an object, one initialization is within that object and another initialization is outside that object. If I run the algorithm, will both lines converge to a particular point, or will 2 lines or will 2 snakes give different information?
I have not run it, but as I think so this way, that in case we are doing it using this traditional snake, if one snake is inside the object and another snake is outside the object,
So
then
that means one snake sings and another snake basically,
Identifies the object.
yes. So one basically identifies outer edges and another identifies the inner edges, right?
No, in case we are doing using traditional snake, then this inside snake will merge to one point. It will not be able to identify the object because it is inside the object.
But that depends on your energy term.
Yes, if we are using balloon snake, then it will expand and it will identify the inner portion.
Yes, I'm
inner
talking
edge
about
of the-
balloon model.
Okay.
Can you please go to that slide?
Balloon. Okay.
So in this case, the red one, that is the starting contour, basically expands and ultimately will identify the inner boundary of this object.
Yes.
I have another snake
Hmm.
which is outside this object.
Okay.
So finally, it basically identifies, it will identify the outer edges of this object.
Yes.
Can it be possible to merge these two? Can it be possible to coincide one onto another?
Yes, sir, what I think, in case this edge is like this, there is a single edge, then they will merge. But what if there is another, say, this is a very thick border? In that case, they will merge. But if we want to merge, I think if we first blur the image and then if we reduce it, they might actually identify the same border, either inner or outside.
Okay, so it depends on gradient image.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.